Hey guys, this is Dereka with Dereka's Designs, and today we are making this adorable little leprechaun attachment. So grab your sewing machine and let's get going. Okay guys, we are back and we are going to make this adorable little leprechaun set this time. It comes with the body, little arms, and this cute little hat. I just changed it up a little bit. I thought it was we would make his ears on the hat. It just looks funny. All right, we'll set those aside. Now, this one is a part no sew, part sew. We have to sew the body. This is the main part of the body. And we have little socks. A little, just breaks up this before it hits the boot down here. So the first thing we're gonna do is sew on the socks. Ugh, goodness gracious, we have so much stuff here. Now place the body, and now we're going to put right sides together so that we can sew it, right? Okay, I'm going to pin that. Oops. And you can pin around the edges if you feel like it. I just throw a couple right in the middle just to hold it in place. Now we're going to take this. We're going to flip back the main layer here, or the top layer. Flip that back like that. We're going to take two of our little sock pieces, and again we're going to go right sides together on these two right here, and then we're going to sew. Make sure everything's in place here. We have feathers everywhere. Whenever you cut into a feather boa, you're going to have feathers all over the place. Okay, so then we have some wild threads here that are getting caught here. There we go. Scissors and get rid of these. Okay, so when you pull them back, they look like that. So that's your outside. This would be the outside of your design. And then flip this over. Place these the same way, right sides together. And we're doing the other leg. The other half of the body, I guess. Okay, so now if you open it up and pull this over, it goes all the way to the end like that. So we're going to pin that again because we don't want those coming apart. I like to line up my seam and just throw a pin in it. There. So now we're done with the pants and the little socks, or whatever you want to call those. This one seems a little off. All right, so now we're going to do the exact same thing with our little boots. These are going to be in the way. We're going to flip up the top layer like that. And since the boots don't have a right side, but just imagine that they did. Of course, you want your boot facing away. You don't want, he's not pigeon-toed. So we're going to do the exact same thing. right, so when you flip these over, now you have the pants, the sock, and the boot all attached together. So we're going to flip that around and do the exact same thing to the other side. All right, so now shake it out, lay it down, and you should have your pants on there. Everything should line up. Make sure your boots line up before you pin it. And once we get this all pinned and everything looks good, we are going to sew all around the outside, everywhere except the top up here, okay? I'm just using a standard straight stitch, nothing fancy, just whatever. Like I said, if you're a pinner, you can pin this thing all the way around. I just do so many of these, I've gotten lazy with it, I guess. And again, we're not making clothing, we're not making heirloom things that people want to keep forever. These are just wreath attachments, so. I mean, to be honest, you want your customer to throw it away after a year or two to buy a new wreath. So that is the whole point. Go back. Take out some pins. What the hell? I guess I already took them out. That's strange. Okay, so I like to go back. I check all of my seams, you know, because I'm not diligently pinning everything. I just have to go back and just make sure there aren't going to be any types of issues. You have an extra thread here that I'm going to cut. And everything looks okay. So now we can flip it around. This one's big enough that you can just use your fingers usually. Don't need any special tool to flip this around. There's no curl in the toe or anything that would, you know, hang up or get in your way. Okay, so I am going to use a dowel just to push everything out. Make sure I get the heel, go all the way around to the front. That's not the dowel I wanted. All right. Okay, so there is the little legs. So he's got these little pants, this little sock area, and then the cute little boots. Now we will do arms. And basically done the exact same way. You take two arms, place them right side up, and then put your mittens on. Now you can leave these all pinned together if you want to. In some of my past videos, I have left the arm section pinned together so that you know, but you can also do them individually like this. It's totally up to you. There's something on my, it's hot glue. Something keeps catching my fabric and it makes it very difficult to slide the fabric over. Alrighty. And this one, so now you have one going this way. So if you took this and matched it up and then put the right sides together, yeah, it would be the same. Holy moly, I'm gonna have to get the scraper, get the hot glue off of here. I realized how hard it makes it to push the fabric on. Okay, so we have all of our little, now we just line them up. Right sides together, of course. And I'm going to pin probably put 2 pins in, one in the mitten and one down here in the arm. And that one. Okay, so now we just sew around these, leaving the end open to stuff it. Around, make sure I didn't miss any areas. Seems all look good. The thumb is probably the most troublesome, so I'm just going to go ahead and double stitch the thumb anyway. There we go. That way I for sure have it or none of the polyfill is going to pop through. Okay. I'm going to need a smaller dowel to get that thumb out of there. Let's see what I have here. We have a smaller one. Just kind of pulling it, trying to pull it out with my fingers as much as I can so that I can get the dowel in there. There we go. There we go. A little arm. And we'll sew the other one. Checking the seams. Actually, that thumb looks okay. I just have one little spot right at the top here. Of course, you can use your hemostats or whatever you have to flip these around. I'm just using my hands. Except for the thumb, I can pretty much get it all out. There we go. We have both of the hands now. Okay, let's go ahead and get these stuffed. And then I've got to change the thread over because I'm going to sew these, but I don't want to use black thread. Okay, so we have these all stuffed. Before I change the thread over, I'm going to sew in the tabs. Now I just have some scrap pieces of felt here. So I know the pants are going to need 2 fairly large tabs, and then the little hands won't need much at all. So I'm just going to use some scraps. There's 2 for that. And 2 for the arms. Okay, so when I do tabs, and I sometimes I do wire, sometimes I do tabs. It just doesn't, you know, it depends on where I'm putting it and what I'm doing with it. So I like to see how you have the frayed edges here. I just take my fingers and tuck them in and kind of pull them tight. I take a tab, fold it in half, and place it in there. And then just, before I let go of it, I just go ahead and sew it. There. And you just have that little tab sewn into the end. Next one. Fold them in to give a nice clean edge. Fold your little tab in half. And place it in there. Okay, so now our little arms are almost finished. Now this, when we do the body, do the same thing as far as folding the little tabs in, but see how it's open? I just put my fingers in there and then pull it so that it has nice clean edges. And then I just hold it. I take one tab, fold it in half, place it in there, and you're going to need to pin this. Okay, then I usually put one more pin in the middle just to hold everything where I want it. And then we get to this end, keep pulling it, place it in there. And then just sew across. And then you have these tabs in there, and you know, they're pretty sturdy. They're not going anywhere. Okay, so give me 1 second to change over my thread. And I know sometimes it's a pain. Normally I would sew, 50 sets of ears all at one time, so I didn't have to sit and change threads to do every single item. But, I did not. I wanted to show you guys how I sewed them, so I had to change the thread out. Okay, so my basic little ears, they're just cut basic. I don't get all fancy with them, but I like to sew them all the way around, leaving this edge open. I flip them around and I sew them again. I like them to have this little edge on it because I think it's cute. So. I'm just sewing around it and I'm going to flip it around. And yes, I could have pinned it, but it's felt and it kind of hangs on to itself anyway. You guys sew however you sew. Definitely going to look at the edge. Everything looks okay. And I just flip it around. And then I use my dowel or chopstick or something smooth. I'm going to push out every single seam, every one. I want it to be completely flat. And then I go back and just right along the edge, about 1/4 of an inch or so, I just sew a line. We're not sewing somehow, our bobbin. Let's try again. I hear people say all the time that 50% of sewing is fixing the sewing machine. So, and honestly, some days it feels like that. Okay, everything looks all right. I'm going to flip this one around. Get the dowel in there and just kind of push it all out. You can use your finger if you can get into all the little places. Make sure it's good and flat. And that none of the seams are rolled in. Okay, so for this project, I left this extension here on these ears, but we will probably cut it back just a little bit when we do the hat. But for right now, that will work. Okay, and let's see. I think we are done with our sewing portion. So if you give me just a second, I'm going to put this giant thing out of the way so we have some more room up here. Okay, so we're back and we are now glue gunning it. So now you can use whatever trims you want on your arms and legs. You do not have to use feather boa. I just like it. It covers well. You know, it makes your job a little bit easier. It covers a lot. And it looks really, you know, it looks really good in the wreaths. It just gives it that extra texture. So I'm going to just do cute little arms. I just go back. I make sure these little ends aren't sticking out. Okay, there's the little arms and the legs. Sometimes I would do like a gold trim on this top area above, but all I have with me at the moment is black. So we're just going to use black. You don't have to put any trim up there at all. I just like the way it looks. Oops. This trim came unraveled. I hate that. Some trims do really well when you cut them, and others just go, oof. They look terrible. Okay, well, we have one little terrible spot, but since it's in the back, I'm not going to get too worried over it. If it was anywhere near the front, I would tear that whole piece off and start and just cut a new one. But I think because it's in the back right there, it'll be okay. Because this is the front and nobody's going to see. Dot of hot glue I put right there. And I need a lint roller. Holy moly. Black felt, guys, I'm telling you. You will lint roll it 85 times before you're done. Before you ship this thing out the door, put it in a wreath. One leg at a time. I don't want the other feathers to get all stuck up in the glue, so I'm just doing one leg at a time. Go. And I just make sure that like this little end piece is sticking out here. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue. I don't know, just habit, I guess. All right. Okay, so you can see his little feet, his little body's coming together. Now, because he is a leprechaun, I'm going to put a belt on him. Which you can use anything. You can use felt. I have some of that faux leather looking kind of stuff, which would probably look better. But since I already had the felt cut, we're just going to go with it. And you can do the whole back side if you choose. Again, it's the back. I'm not too concerned about it. Don't really spend a lot of time worrying about what the backs of things look like. And this is the gold glittered foam that I get at Hobby Lobby, and I just make them a nice big buckle. See, oh, you know what I forgot? What's in my pile? Uh-oh. Okay. Well, I did not bring the giant gold buckle. I remember actually now that I didn't have another one. So I'm going to have to make another giant gold buckle for the hat that we're about to make. But you'll be able to see it on this one. And the little gold buckles on the boots, to me, this is, again, is one of those little extra touches that people think is kind of neat. Even though you can't necessarily see it real well, when they're examining your item, they'll be like, oh, look, there's little buckles on the belts or on the boots too. So just a little bit extra. Just lift up the feathers and just kind of hide it up in there. The feathers are going to come down over it, and that's okay. It's kind of what you want. You want it just to look like it's just sort of hidden in there. These buckles are a tiny bit big. If I was at my desk, I would cut a couple that were just a little smaller, but you know, it really doesn't make too much of a difference because it is hidden by the feathers like that. So you can kind of see them up under there, and if you turn it, you can look, you can see the buckle, but it's more just hidden. Okay, so we have our little arms and the body done. So let's do our top hat. Now you guys have been with me a while. You've probably seen 100 different top hats so far. I do a lot of top hats. Top hats are something that is very popular in wreaths. So when you can kind of master your top hat, you know, what you want your top hat to look like, because it certainly doesn't have to look like mine, just go with it. Some people like to sew their top hats, and some people like me just glue them. Okay, so we are always going to leave one of the edges hanging over, right? This edge is pretty much even, and then we have the hangover over here, and we have lots of hangover up here, and we'll just trim it off. This fabric got very wrinkled, so then I'm just going to take my glue gun, use the nozzle, spread it out. Oh, geez, we're not getting any glue here. Use the nozzle, spread it out so that it's not big globs, and then lay your fabric onto it. And smooth that part out, because you're going to smooth it out along the way. This fabric is incredibly wrinkled, so I'll have to. So, do some lines, and then I just go back with the nozzle and just flatten those big globs out. Keep smoothing it. Now, if you're using felt, you can pretty much glue the whole thing and lay it down. The felt is not going to have any issues with globs of glue or anything like that. But because this is a thin cotton, you definitely have to take the time and do a little bit at a time. Just flatten out your fabric. Okay, so now we'll just trim off anything that's peeking through the back side here, except for the one side. Hello, Jasper. I don't know if you guys can hear him screaming. He apparently is not very happy with being locked in there without me. Okay. All right, we're gonna let that cool off for just a second. We're gonna do the tops and the bottom. Now you can use felt or something. You don't have to use the same coordinating fabric. I do on the top, I would, but like on the brim, you could just use felt or something if you didn't want to use the cotton. Actually, sometimes the brims look better if they're not the coordinating fabric. I mean, I know it's a personal choice, but I personally like to do felts on the tops and on the brim part, and it hides a lot of the glue strings and all of that. So, but since I have these ready to go, I'm just going to use them. And as always, I've always put the glue directly on the foam because it's easier to hold it like this. And and then set it down on top of the fabric. Flip it over and just smooth out the fabric so that's nice and flat. We don't need to trim this one because we're gonna trim it when we do the hat, but we do need to trim this one. And then we'll glue it to this side. Flip it over, smooth it out. Make sure you have it nice, sticking nicely. And then we will trim off all this excess. We're going to put trim around this, so just try to cut it right up to the foam. All right, now we'll go back to our face of the hat here. And I'm going to do the roll method like I always do. I'm going to take this, I'm going to put glue right here, and I'm going to roll it over about 1/2 inch from the edge of the foam, and I'm just going to roll it onto that and put my hand inside. So this is just the way I do it because it keeps me from, of course the glue gun runs out, just from burning myself. So I have glue on the end, about 1/2 inch from the edge of the foam, not the fabric, the foam. And then I just kind of roll it over onto the foam so that the foam, we're gluing to the foam, not that little piece of fabric that's hanging off. And I just put my hand in here just to hold it in place while it cools off. Okay, so we haven't glued anything to this little flap of fabric. We just glued the foam to the actual roll. So now we go back and we add just a little bit of glue. Doesn't need a lot. Don't want big globs. Just right to, and then again, roll it onto it and hold it down from, I'm holding it from the inside. That way we have a nice smooth, look how smooth the back is. You don't even see the lump here where the foam ended. You know, it's just nice and smooth. Okay, so now you just kind of play with it a little bit, get it round again. You want it to be round. Take your top piece here. And now this is the part you've got to kind of be quick with this. You're just going to take your glue gun, make sure you have a full glue stick so you don't have to stop midway through, and put glue all the way around. And then stick it onto this. And try to make sure none of the edges are sticking off the side. Like that. And yeah, there's a lot hanging over, but we can trim it really easily. It's way easier to make this bottom, the top piece down here bigger and trim it than it is to try to line this piece of foam, this thing up to a perfect circle, because it's never going to be a perfect circle. It's just not. Okay, so we set that over there. We are also going to use trim to cover that edge. So, you know me, my trims. So I'm going to go ahead and add the trim to this one. If you have any pieces of the top or the bottom here of the cotton fabric that are popping up, you can just go ahead and glue them down. If it's just going to come up. Like I can see this little spot right here. That's how it's kind of coming up. I'm going to throw a line of glue on that. No big deal. And you can kind of go around. If you wanted to use spray adhesive glue on this, you can. Please do it outdoors. Don't do it in your house. But if you have no problem stepping out every time to spray adhesive something, you can. Just any type of spray adhesive. You can get it in the craft section. You can get it in the hardware section. I mean, at any store, it's just spray adhesive. It will work. Like I said, just do it outside where it's well ventilated. Don't do it in your craft space. because the little particles travel and you will have spray adhesive basically stuck like a mist over everything in your room. And, you know, it's not good for your lungs. So, please, please. A lot of people like to just take the short way and just, you know, spray glue right there at their desk. I would not recommend it. I think it's incredibly dangerous, and it's incredibly, it can catch fire easily. What's the word I'm going for? It can catch fire so easily. So if you have something hot, if you have a candle, if you have something going, which I hope you wouldn't at your desk, but you know what I mean? Like it will catch fire so easily. It's just not something you want in your house. No spray adhesive. Doesn't matter if it's just glitter spray or if it's got an adhesive in it, don't bring it in your house. It's just way too dangerous. I used to have a little table set up in my garage, and that's where we would go and do anything that I couldn't do in the house. In the summertime, of course, I can go outside, but in the winter, I cannot. It's just safer, you know. But I just stopped using it because the glue gun just seems to work just as well, just as easy. All right, so now I'm looking at my, I have a little lump here. When I set it down, I could feel that it was kind of teeter-tottering. So really, I'm just gonna grab my scissors, cut off the little lump. There, now it's sturdy, it's not teeter-tottering. Again, take your glue gun, go around the edge. I am going to put feather boa around this, so if you get a little glue on the outside, it's okay. Just try to eyeball it as close to the center as you can. You can mark it if you want to, but I just eyeball it. Like that. And then we're going to do the trim up here along the top part. Oops, there it goes. It's going to roll away from you. Gotta catch it. Okay, so now we have a basic hat, obviously, you can use for anything. So now we're going to turn this into a leprechaun. Okay, so we have our belt. Again, I should have used something besides felt, but it's okay. Find where your back is. The back is right there. And place this on there like that. And just see if it lines up in the back. If it doesn't, just kind of move it around. There we go. So I'm going to glue this into place without moving it. I'm holding this side so it's not going anywhere. Now I've let go and it's going to go everywhere. You don't really need to glue the whole thing. You can, but it's not really necessary. Yeah, like there's no glue on this front part, but really, I mean, it's not going anywhere. So okay, so what the thing I forgot to grab, and I now remember making that mental note that I completely lost track of. This giant buckle. I'm going to put one right there. Don't have it with me right now. So, but you have on the pattern, you have this, the belt size buckle, the shoe size buckle, and this size buckle. So when you make yours, you'll cut all three, 2 of the feet, 1 of the belt, and 1 of the big hat ones. And then I'm going to take some, oh wait, let's do the ears first. We should do the ears before we put the feather. Well, no, let's do the feather boa first. Sorry. I'm trying to think of, I want to make sure the easiest way to do this without getting everything stuck in the feathers, but I think this will be the best. So we're putting feather boa down here at the bottom, just to tie in with all the feather boa on the legs and the arms and things. You do not have to use the feather boa though, guys. I know it's hard to find these sometimes. I know they're a little pricey, you know, $3 or $4 for one, but you can cut them down, and that is what I do. I buy them and I cut them. All right, so when we talked about, I left this little edge on the ear a little bit long because I wanted to be able to trim it. So I'm going to trim it, and I'm going to kind of trim this one at a little bit of an angle so that when I put it there, it sticks out. I want it to stick out. And then you put some glue on this edge. I could actually make these ears just a little bit bigger because I kind of like the way they look when they're just big. And I'm not going all the way into the feather boa, but I'm only going about halfway up the buckle, or the hat belt here. And you just kind of want to hold this on there. So give it a second. We're going to do the same thing with this one. Oops, see, it's coming off. You gotta be careful. I'll do this side. I'm going to kind of try to line them up exactly the same. And then we're going to hold both of them. Just eyeball it, try to make them even. And then when I have that giant buckle, it's going to go basically right here in the center. I apologize for not having that, guys. I try to think of everything, and it just always seems like I miss one little item, but on your pattern, you do have it. So we'll just swap over the magic of, we'll just see how we have the little ears, and then we have this cute little buckle in the middle, and that is what it's going to look like. So that is our leprechaun set. There's little body, little arms if somebody wants to use it to hold something, and then the cute little hat with the little ears coming off of it. I think they're adorable. So I hope you enjoy this one. I hope you'll make it. St. Patrick's Day wreaths are not typically something that is incredibly popular, but there are always a few people who are going to make them. So if you get your stuff out there, get it on Etsy. You never know, you might sell a couple. So anyway, guys, you have a great day. Bye-bye.